Welcome to Multiverse Mentality. I'm your host, Robin. Today we're diving into a fascinating concept that might just change how you see yourself forever. The multi-me multiverse. Ever wondered what your life would be like if you'd made different choices? Well, according to Srinidhi Ranganathan, known as India's human AI, those versions of you actually exist in parallel universes, and even more exciting, you can access their wisdom and abilities. I came across this concept while exploring visualization techniques, and I was blown away by how it combines elements of quantum physics, psychology, and personal development into something remarkably practical. Throughout today's episode, we'll explore everything from the basic theory behind the multi-me multiverse to specific visualization exercises like the cosmic mirror and the throne of infinite selves. We'll examine the science behind it, discuss how to overcome the fear of such a mind-expanding concept, and provide practical applications you can start using immediately. So stay tuned as we unveil the limitless potential of your infinite selves. Let's think about this concept for a moment. The multi-me multiverse. It sounds like science fiction, but there's something about it that resonates on a deeper level, right? According to Srinidhi Ranganathan, we each exist in countless parallel universes, living different versions of our lives based on different choices we've made. Every decision point in your life has created branches, some where you took that job offer, others where you didn't, some where you moved to a new city, others where you stayed put. The fascinating part isn't just that these other yous might exist. It's that supposedly we can access their knowledge, skills, and experiences through focused visualization techniques. It's like having a personal advisory board made up entirely of, well, you. This concept blends elements from quantum physics theories, like the many worlds interpretation, where every possible outcome of every event exists in its own history, or world. Physicist Hugh Everett proposed this back in 1957, though he wasn't suggesting we could mentally connect with these alternate realities. What I find most intriguing is how this reframes our understanding of potential. Instead of seeing skills or wisdom as things we lack, this perspective suggests everything we need already exists within the broader us. We're just learning to tune into the right channel, so to speak. Now let's talk about how this multi-me visualization actually works. The mechanics behind it are fascinating, but don't worry, I'll keep it simple. When Ranganathan talks about vibrational alignment, he's referring to the idea that different versions of ourselves exist at different energetic frequencies. Through focused visualization, we supposedly can tune into these frequencies, almost like adjusting a radio dial until you find the perfect station. The key technique he introduces is the self-mirror ritual. It's remarkably straightforward. You mentally project a version of yourself who has already mastered whatever you're struggling with. Instead of seeing your current reflection, you visualize this accomplished version of you. What I find particularly interesting is how this approach reframes our relationship with our potential. Rather than thinking, I need to become better at this, you're thinking, a version of me is already excellent at this. I just need to connect with them. Another technique he mentions is the throne of infinite selves, visualization, where you imagine yourself at the center of all your possible versions, drawing wisdom from each one. It's essentially creating a personal council of advisors, all of whom are you. 7FBQ7YY, JUUCO56RY, GDR. Now that we understand the theory and mechanics, let's explore one of the core techniques of the multi-me practice, the cosmic mirror exercise. This is honestly one of my favorite visualization techniques because it's so accessible. You don't need fancy equipment or years of meditation experience, just your imagination and a quiet space. Here's how it works. Find a comfortable position where you won't be disturbed. Close your eyes and take several deep breaths to center yourself. Now imagine standing before what Ranganathan calls a cosmic mirror. But unlike a regular mirror that reflects your current self, this one connects to parallel realities. The key question to ask yourself is, show me the version of me who has already mastered what I'm currently struggling with. Then simply observe who appears. Pay attention to how they carry themselves, what they're wearing, their energy, everything. The fascinating part comes next. You actually have a conversation with this version of yourself. You can ask specific questions about how they overcame challenges or request their guidance on problems you're facing. What I've found particularly powerful about this exercise is that the answers often feel like they're coming from somewhere deeper than your conscious mind. It's as if you're tapping into knowledge you already possess but haven't been able to access. When you're ready to complete the exercise, imagine yourself merging with this alternate version, absorbing their confidence and capabilities. According to Ranganathan, this creates a vibrational alignment that allows you to access their traits in your everyday life. Now, when we consider the scientific perspective behind the multi-me multiverse, things get really fascinating. Some neuroscientists actually believe our brains might be wired to tap into different mental states that could theoretically connect to these parallel versions of ourselves. Research on neural networks shows that our brains can form new pathways and connections throughout our lives, what scientists call neuroplasticity. According to Dr. Michael Persinger at Laurentian University, certain patterns of electromagnetic activity in the brain might allow us to access what he calls the extended mind, consciousness that exists beyond our immediate physical experience. On the quantum level, there's even more to consider. The famous double-slit experiment demonstrates that particles exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed. Some physicists like Dr. Stuart Hameroff suggest that quantum effects might occur in brain cells, specifically in structures called microtubules. What I find most compelling is how these scientific concepts align with ancient practices. Meditation techniques dating back thousands of years describe accessing higher states of consciousness that transcend normal perception. Essentially what Ranganathan is describing with modern terminology. The science doesn't conclusively prove we can access parallel selves, but it certainly doesn't rule it out either. And honestly, that uncertainty is part of what makes this whole journey so exciting. One aspect of the multi-me multiverse I find most valuable is the practical application, how we can actually access and integrate the wisdom from these other versions of ourselves. What's remarkable is how straightforward the process can be. When you connect with these alternate selves through visualization, you're not just daydreaming. You're creating neural pathways that allow this wisdom to flow into your daily life. The self-mirror ritual we discussed earlier isn't just a one-time exercise. Regular practice creates what Ranganathan calls vibrational habitation, essentially training your brain to access these resources automatically when needed. I've tried this approach with public speaking, something I used to struggle with terribly. By visualizing a version of myself who's a confident speaker and borrowing their mindset, I noticed subtle changes in my actual presentations. Better pacing, more natural gestures, less anxiety. The key is implementing what psychologists call state-dependent learning. By recreating the emotional and mental state you experienced during visualization when facing real challenges, you bridge the gap between imagination and application. Some practitioners even keep a wisdom journal, where they record insights from these other selves, creating a personal guidebook they can reference whenever needed. It's like having a conversation with your most evolved self and taking excellent notes. 7FBQ7YY GUEOY6RYYJRYYO. Let's talk about one of the most powerful visualization exercises in the Multi-Me toolkit, the Throne of Infinite Selves. This is where things get really interesting. What separates this technique from the cosmic mirror is that instead of connecting with just one alternate version of yourself, you're essentially creating a council of all your possible selves. Here's the beauty of it. Imagine yourself walking into this vast cosmic space, almost like a galactic throne room. You're surrounded by countless versions of yourself. The you who became a doctor, the you who traveled the world, even versions of yourself from different time periods or with different talents. The throne at the center represents your conscious awareness, the you reading this right now. When you sit on that throne, you're acknowledging yourself as the master coordinator of all these different energies and potentials. I tried this visualization during a particularly difficult career decision. What surprised me was how different versions of myself seemed to have contradictory advice. But together, they helped me see angles I hadn't considered. The real magic happens afterward. Many practitioners report sudden flashes of insight or finding solutions to problems they'd been stuck on for ages. It's almost like your brain continues processing this council meeting long after the visualization ends. What fascinates me most about the Multi-Me framework is the homework, or as Ranganathan calls it, portal work. These aren't just thought exercises. They're practical applications designed to strengthen your connection to these parallel versions of yourself. The first assignment is beautifully straightforward. Actually draw or digitally create the better you that you met during the self-mirror ritual. There's something powerful about making this visualization tangible. Studies have shown that the act of drawing activates different neural pathways than just imagining, helping to solidify the experience in your brain. Another practice involves writing a letter from your parallel self to your current self. This exercise uses what psychologists call self-distancing, creating enough separation to gain new perspective while maintaining the personal connection. I tried this myself last week, and what surprised me was how different my writing style became when I wrote as my confident self. The language was more direct, less apologetic. It revealed patterns I hadn't noticed in my everyday communication. The third technique is my personal favorite, actually embodying that parallel version for a day. It's basically method acting for personal development. Start your morning mimicking their posture, speaking patterns, even their decision-making style. Many practitioners report that this fake it till you become it approach creates lasting changes. I know we've been exploring some fascinating techniques so far, but let's talk about something that really ties this all together: synchronizing with your parallel selves. This isn't just about visualizing them or having conversations with them. It's about creating a consistent flow of wisdom and energy between all your versions. What I find particularly helpful is establishing a daily practice. Even just 5 minutes each morning can create what Ranganathan calls dimensional harmony. This might sound complicated, but it's actually quite simple. It's about maintaining that connection so it becomes second nature. One technique I've been trying is keeping a small token or object that represents my connection to these parallel selves. Whenever I touch it during the day, I briefly reconnect with that expanded awareness. It's like creating a physical anchor for a mental practice. The goal isn't to constantly live in visualization mode. It's to create enough synchronization that wisdom flows naturally when you need it. Think of it like training any other skill. With practice, you don't have to consciously think through every step. What's remarkable is how many practitioners report that after consistent practice, they start receiving insights without formal visualization, almost like their parallel selves are reaching out to them. Let's talk about something incredibly important that comes up when we first encounter this concept: the fear. When I first started exploring the multi-me multiverse, I definitely felt a mixture of excitement and, if I'm being honest, a bit of existential panic. If there are infinite versions of me, what does that mean about who I really am? This fear is completely natural. Our sense of identity is precious, and anything that seems to dilute or complicate it can feel threatening. Some people worry that connecting with parallel selves might lead to identity confusion, or even something like dissociation. What I've found, though, is that embracing this multiversal identity actually strengthens rather than weakens your sense of self. It's like discovering you have a much larger family than you thought. It doesn't make you less you. It expands your understanding of what you encompasses. A simple way to start overcoming this fear is to approach it playfully. You don't need to believe in literal parallel universes to benefit from these visualization techniques. Think of it as accessing different aspects of your own potential. Remember, you remain the primary coordinator, the admin user, as Ranganathan puts it, of all these different energetic expressions of yourself. Your core consciousness is always in charge. Now let's talk about how to actually apply these multiversal insights in your everyday life. This isn't just philosophical mind candy. There are practical ways to use this concept that can genuinely transform how you approach challenges. One application I've found particularly useful is what Ranganathan calls skill borrowing. Before learning something new, take 5 minutes to connect with a version of yourself who's already mastered it. This creates a foundation of confidence that makes the actual learning process much smoother. Studies from Stanford University actually show that visualization activates many of the same neural pathways as physical practice. Another practical use is decision-making. When faced with a difficult choice, you can consult different versions of yourself who made different decisions. This gives you a more complete picture than just pros and cons lists. Many beginners find it helpful to start with something simple, like asking your parallel self for cooking inspiration or workout motivation. These small successes build your confidence for tackling bigger challenges. Remember, you don't need to believe in literal parallel universes to benefit from these techniques. Even seeing them as accessing different parts of your subconscious mind can be incredibly powerful. The results are what matter, not the exact mechanism behind them. Before we dive into some of the more advanced visualization techniques, I want to talk about how to properly prepare yourself. Because let's be honest, doing this work isn't like flipping a light switch. It requires the right mental state and environment. First, physical preparation is crucial. When attempting deeper connections with your parallel selves, find a quiet space where you won't be interrupted. Your posture matters too. Sitting with your spine straight but not rigid helps energy flow more freely. I learned this the hard way when I tried doing the cosmic mirror exercise while slouched on my couch. Complete mental static. Mental preparation involves clearing your mind of expectations. The biggest barrier I see with beginners is they try too hard to force specific outcomes. The paradox is that the less you grasp, the more naturally insights flow. Time of day matters as well. Many practitioners report stronger connections during what's called the liminal hours, those transitional periods at dawn and dusk when our brains naturally shift between different states of consciousness. I've found my most vivid connections happen just after waking, before my analytical mind kicks into high gear. Remember, preparation isn't just a step to rush through. It's the foundation that makes everything else possible. We've reached the end of our journey through the multi-me multiverse, and what a mind-expanding trip it's been. From the basic concept that infinite versions of ourselves exist in parallel realities to practical visualization techniques like the cosmic mirror and throne of infinite selves, we've covered a lot of ground. What I find most beautiful about this whole concept is that it transforms our relationship with potential. Instead of thinking, I need to become better, we realize, I already am that better version somewhere, and I can access that wisdom now. Whether you see this as literal parallel universes or simply a powerful psychological framework doesn't really matter. The results speak for themselves: enhanced creativity, clearer decision-making, and access to parts of yourself you might never have known existed. I encourage you to try even just one of the techniques we've discussed today. Start with the self-mirror ritual, perhaps. You might be surprised by who shows up in that cosmic reflection and what they have to teach you. This is Robin, signing off from Multiverse Mentality. Until next time, remember, you're not just one you, you're infinite.